A license to dream. James stared longingly out the bus window, his eyes tracing the raindrops as they raced down the glass. He watched cars glide by, each one a symbol of the freedom he so desperately craved. He yearned for the open road, the wind in his hair, and the sense of boundless possibilities that driving promised. To James, driving meant more than just getting from one place to another. It represented independence, a chance to escape the confines of his current life. For him, it was more than just a skill. It was a rite of passage, a symbol of adulthood and endless opportunities. He often pictured himself behind the wheel, feeling the steering wheel under his hands, in control of his own destiny. He imagined picking up his little sister from school, no longer bound by the bus schedule, and the joy on her face as they drove home together. He dreamed of taking his mother on long drives, sparing her the tedious and exhausting commute to work. These images filled him with a sense of purpose, a burning desire to make these dreams a reality and to help his family in any way he could. But this dream felt a million miles away, almost unattainable. James worked part-time after school, juggling his studies with long shifts at the local diner, trying to make ends meet. Every penny he earned went towards his family's meager expenses, leaving little room for anything else. Driving lessons, with their high costs, felt like an extravagant expense, a luxury they simply couldn't afford. The financial struggle made the idea of driving lessons seem unattainable, a distant dream. This realization gnawed at him daily, fueling a deep frustration and a sense of helplessness. He felt trapped, his aspirations stifled by the harsh reality of their financial constraints, yet he held on to hope, believing that one day he would find a way to make his dream come true. The weight of want. Weeks bled into months, each day feeling heavier than the last. James continued his routine, the weight of his desire pressing down on him like an invisible shackle. Every bus ride, every car that passed, served as a painful reminder of his unattainable goal. The dream of driving seemed to drift further away with each passing day. One evening, James found himself confiding in Marcus, an older acquaintance known for his street smarts and questionable dealings. He poured out his frustrations, his longing, and his despair.
I get it, man, I really do. It's tough when you want something so bad, but it feels just out of reach. Desperation, it's a tough spot to be in. I've seen it break people.
Marcus listened intently, a knowing smirk playing on his lips. He understood desperation all too well. He'd seen it countless times before, in the eyes of those who came to him seeking a way out. When James finished, Marcus offered a solution, a way to make easy money, enough to cover those driving lessons and then some. It was a tempting offer, wrapped in the promise of quick success.
Look, James, there's a way to get what you want. It's quick, it's easy. You just gotta be willing to take a few risks. You just gotta take a few risks. Nothing too crazy, just enough to get you what you need.
James hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He knew in his gut that Marcus's proposition wasn't legal. The shadows of doubt crept into his mind. His heart pounded against his ribs, a drumbeat of fear and temptation. The rhythm of his anxiety echoed in the silence. The thought of betraying his values, of jeopardizing his future, filled him with dread. Yet the allure of his dream was powerful. But the lure of his dream, the prospect of finally getting behind the wheel, was a siren song he couldn't resist. It called to him, louder than his fears. He was trapped between his conscience and his desire, each pulling him in opposite directions. In that moment of weakness, he made a choice driven by desperation and longing, a choice he would come to regret. The weight of want had led him down a path he never intended to take, a deal with the devil. The tasks were simple enough at first, delivering packages, running errands. It seemed like a straightforward way to make some extra cash. Marcus assured him it was harmless, that no one would get hurt. He was convincing, and James wanted to believe him. The money was good, better than James could have imagined. It was more than he had ever made before, and it came so easily. He told himself it was temporary, just until he could afford his driving lessons. He dreamed of the freedom a car would bring. He clung to the belief that he wasn't hurting anyone. He rationalized his actions, convincing himself it was just a means to an end, that he was just bending the rules, not breaking them. It was a fine line, but he walked it with confidence. But as the weeks passed, the errands became riskier, the packages heavier. The nature of his tasks began to change, and so did his feelings. The weight of his secret grew, a constant knot of anxiety in his stomach. He couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something was wrong. He started withdrawing from his family, His grades began to slip. The stress was taking its toll, and it showed in every aspect of his life. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was in over his head, caught in a web of deceit he didn't know how to escape. The walls were closing in, and he was running out of options. Riding the razor's edge, James began his driving lessons, his excitement tinged with guilt. He excelled behind the wheel, his instructor complimenting his natural ability.
You're a natural, James. I've never seen someone pick it up so quickly.
The freedom he felt was intoxicating. He savored the control, the sense of accomplishment. But the joy was always fleeting, overshadowed by the dark secret that funded his newfound freedom. The line between his two lives blurred. The once clear distinction between right and wrong became muddled. He was living a double life, and the pressure was mounting. He couldn't outrun the fear that gnawed at him, the constant dread of being caught.